Okay, before I continue on with my actual comparison, I just want to show you some differences and similarities between the first generation Kodak Playsport and the second generation Kodak Playsport. Besides the aesthetic issues, this Kodak Playsport, the new one, has a little bit more of a stealth-like appearance. There's no more of the white faceplate that the old one had, where the controls and the display is located. So that's kind of I would say, an improvement. Also, the other noticeable difference is between the first generation and the second also, is that the microphone here is much smaller on the first than it is on the second. So the second may have improved on that, and that's what I'm also anxious to test out here, is the sound quality between both the first generation and the second generation. I was also told that the lenses itself is slightly different. The new Playsport actually has a slightly wider angle, I don't know how much, but I'll be finding out shortly, than the first generation. So here we go with the test. Okay, this is the test of the first generation Kodak Playsport. One of the things that I'm really anxious to compare, besides the video quality, is how good the microphone is on the newer model. So just as you listen to my voice, you'll have a relative comparison here. Okay, this is the Kodak second generation Playsport model ZX5. I'm particularly interested in how good the sound quality is also on this camera in comparison to the first generation model ZX3. I noticed aesthetically that the microphone is slightly more elongated, or actually I should say has more holes in it. Maybe that was to counter the effects of the previous model, which had a really tiny hole, which tended to have for underwater use, once you took it out of the water, that it blocked that little hole. Maybe this was a way to correct it. But the bottom line is whether or not the improvement even exists with this new microphone on the ZX5. So I'll let you be the judge of that. Okay, so in conclusion, at least based on my own personal observation, what I've noticed as far as the differences between these two, other than what you've read, my bottom line was the overall quality. Now the footage quality, both recorded at 1080p, were about the same. I wouldn't give one an advantage over the other, but where I really noticed the difference, at least in my ears, was the sound quality. I noticed that the first generation Playsport had a slightly more robust sound characteristic when it was recording my voice. This one sounded as if it may have cut a few corners just so that it wouldn't maybe perhaps take as much memory. But it sounded like there was a little bit more added noise to this second generation ZX5 when compared to the first generation ZX3. So aside from that, at least from the comparison of the two, I would say it's just about the same. So I guess the advertised differences of this second generation model being shockproof and dustproof, as well as having the share button, are somewhat minor upgrades. Not something that I would, after evaluating this, at least at this point, that I would jump into this model over this one if you had the choice between the two. One other thing to note as well is that the remote control is fully compatible with the second generation Playsport, so that's good to know as well. Same with the charger. It's the same standard charger plug connection that they use for the first generation Playsport, so that's also good to know. So in conclusion, I would just say I would leave it up to you. I hope that this video comparison helped out. In case you're curious, I did use my hybrid Canon SX1 IS camera for this footage here. So anyway, thanks for bearing with me, and hope you enjoyed this comparative review.